Back in business. We back in business. Back in business. Okay. Okay. Quick PSA. Quick PSA chat. I just only watched the first 2 minutes of this video, so yes, I will be acting like I haven't seen it, even though I've seen the first 2 minutes. But you know what? Boom. Everything back. We running smooth. Let's get it. Let's go. We back.
Early amusement parks were terrifying, and I want to visit them so badly. Now I know I could just hop in a car and drive to my nearest Six Flags. But folks, I live in Canada. We only have like 3 major amusement parks in the entire country. When top 10 lists are including a hotel water park, you know that they're grasping for straws. And even though Canada's Wonderland is great, it's just not the same. But if you go back about 100 years, not only were there tons of small amusement parks dotted all around cities throughout North America, but they had a certain something that modern-day parks just don't. Early amusement parks were full of everything that a person in the 1910s could ask for. They had terrifying clown imagery, weird sideshow attractions, rides that were actively dangerous, and of course the excuse to see a woman's ankles in public. So join me, dear viewers, as today we take a brief trip into the past and explore the golden age of amusement parks.
Get it, man. I'm ready.
Amusement parks have been around a lot longer than you might think. The concept is actually a mishmash of a few different ideas that have evolved slowly over time. Firstly, you have the fairs and carnivals that were popular back in the Middle Ages, where people could watch all kinds of performances like clowns, juggling, and acrobatics. Then there were the elaborate pleasure gardens that were enjoyed by the upper classes throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, which featured beautifully manicured gardens and walkways where various entertainments could be found interspersed throughout. And of course, there was the World's Fair, an event held every 5 years that brought the developed nations of the world together to celebrate new inventions and technology. Many of these World's Fairs featured a midway section where the origins of amusement rides like the Ferris wheel would greet the public for the very first time. The midway that was introduced at the 1893 Columbian Exposition in particular.
Chat, y'all know the thing is, I'm not scared of heights. I'm not because okay, I always had this mentality, right? I have the it is what it is mentality, and I have the yeah, I got another one, but that's mostly my mentality. It's like, okay, it is what it is. Listen, everything happened for a reason. I'm not gonna question it. Something in the water, it's just gonna be better. So boom. This the thing though. I never was scared of no roller coasters or no Ferris wheels though. Now the thing with the what is that? No, you see, no, y'all don't know. Y'all don't know that one. I went to all of them because I'm like, okay, listen, I may not be on this ride ever again. Because you got to realize fairs come every year and I don't even go outside. So I was like, okay. I went on this big one that takes you all the way up. You know, I don't know if y'all know RP to that, RP to the kid and his family. RP to his kid. The RP to that kid in, Orlando. He fell off that thing. That's the ride I went on. I'm like, wait, it's a thrill. I like it because it just goes all the way down like that, then just brings you right back up. Boom. And then I went on the ship one, the cruise one where it just goes all the way back and forth. It is like, okay, see, start slow. It then just goes all the way 180 up. So you're basically hanging upside down. Then it just sways you right back. That's the ones that I went
Would eventually become the blueprint for the amusement parks that we know and love today. By the early 1900s, these amusement parks were popping up everywhere, providing the middle class with a thrilling and dubiously safe environment that was fun for the whole family. Many of these early parks thrived off of seeing who could come up with the most exciting and unique attractions to capture the attention of the public. This was essentially the Wild West of ride design. In smaller parks, the owners would often design and build the rides themselves, trying to be the first to invent the next big hit.
I don't
They
like.
didn't need to worry about things like laws or how much lateral g-force the human body could withstand. If you were some random guy and you had a basic understanding of physics and architecture, then bada bing bada boom, you too could be a roller coaster designer. A common place for many of these experimental ride concepts to be found was at one of the 3 parks on Coney Island. From the late 1800s up until World War II, Coney Island was at the forefront of amusement park development and would feature all of the newest innovations in ride technology, which is a nice way of saying they had all the weird stuff. Take a look at this thing, for example. What you're looking at is a scenic spiral wheel, also referred to as the top, which could be found at Coney Island's Luna.
Shit. You see, I know me. I can't handle that because I know I might throw up. I don't know. I just get dizzy fast, so I can't do that. I can't do no spinny rides. And then it's like, okay, yeah, like then the family try to force you. Listen, you see, this is why kids don't accept no peer pressure. Because it's easy. Just say no, and even if you don't want to, stand your ground. Boom. They halfway force me like, oh yeah, you ain't gonna go on that ride. Listen, y'all not even on that ride. So why are you telling me to do it? So then when I say, okay, well, why aren't you on it? I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I don't want to go. Why don't you go? I'm not going on it because I can't. Because no, I'm gonna throw up. I can't do no spinny rides. I can't. I mean, yeah, like that. That's just my nerve. That's just my weakness. Anything else I can handle. Haunted houses. Talking about standing all 10, just walking straight. Nothing even phased me, jump scares, nothing. But those spinny rides, yeah, that's my weakness. I can't do that.
Luna
Look
Park
at
from
that.
1917
Yeah,
to 1921.
look at
This insane attraction featured a
motionless.
giant 70-foot wide
Look
spinning
at the
top
motion.
that was outfitted
See?
with 3,200
I'm
feet
getting
of
this.
roller coaster track and would tilt and spin along with the movement of the trains. Though I find it absolutely baffling to watch, especially considering the technology of the time, apparently the attraction was considered underwhelming by park goers. Maybe they needed something a little more exciting, like the Leapfrog Railway, a roller coaster over at Dreamland, where riders could enjoy the exhilarating experience of having one of the train cars slowly climb over another mid-ride.
Yeah, y'all know the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick Neal was crying like babies. And listen, that's y'all. Y'all be crying on the talking about it's real gangsters out here. Then they scared of a roller coaster. Come on. Stop.
Or if that doesn't do it for you, you can always check out the Whirlfly, another
No,
obscure ride that combines a roller coaster with a Ferris wheel.
no.
There was even a ride concept where the designers tried to make a roller coaster train leap a gap in the tracks. Known as the Cannon Coaster, this terrifying design luckily never came to fruition, as early tests with sandbags caused way too many crashes, which eventually resulted in the gap being filled in with regular track pieces. But strange roller coaster designs weren't the only bizarre attractions that these parks had to offer. There was also a building that was just filled with premature babies in incubators, an animal show that forced horses to dive off of platforms into the water, and the infamous Hellgate, which was a boat ride where riders could take a relaxing trip through scenes of hell? This ride would even live up to its name, because it would eventually catch fire during some repairs in 1911 and burn all of Dreamland to the ground.
Interesting.
But weird rides and fire hazards weren't the only thing that you had to worry about if you were going to one of these early amusement parks, because the standard rides were just as terrifying on their own.
Switch to the Google Fi Wireless Flexible plan and only pay for the data you use. Get unlimited calls and texts for 30.
Ride safety in the first amusement parks was almost non-existent. Though every ride was constructed with the intention of being safe, this was safe.
Let me tell you like this, shawty. Listen, you don't gotta lean on me. Cause hey, don't lean on me. Cause if this ride fall over, you on your own. I'm kidding. It's kind of
Safety by early 1900
I don't know.
standards. Horrifying workplace accidents were still the norm, and hearing about someone getting killed by dangerous factory equipment was just a regular Tuesday. People were
Regular
somewhat
Tuesday.
desensitized to this kind of thing, meaning that accidents were not only expected, but in some cases considered a necessary evil in the pursuit of technological progress. When it came to ride design,
Scene. Take one. Welcome aboard to Hellgate, or anyone else may call it Fireland. Listen, y'all, I know y'all waited in line for 30 minutes. We made y'all sign a waiver. Cool. First group up, let's get it. And P.S., you may die on here, but you signed the waiver. Let's go. Like, what would you do in your mind gonna rage?
the amusement industry operated by trial and error. A lot of times, the only way to know if a ride would work was to build it and find out. Even more complicated, however, was predicting how it would affect those riding it. Many early rides didn't have any form of seatbelts, restraints, or even a grab bar to hold onto. Riders instead had to rely on the force of gravity and maintaining a certain position in order to avoid disaster.
Right.
But, unfortunately, relying on the general public to safely curate their experience is pretty much impossible. If you've been on any teacup ride, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was an issue that many of the first roller coasters faced. Take the popular scenic railway designs that could be found at many amusement parks around the world. These early coasters were built just like actual railroads, using gravity and the weight of the cars themselves in order to stay on the track. The varying weight of passengers, however, could affect the speed of the car, sometimes causing it to take turns too quickly and fly off the tracks. As a solution to this problem, a braking system was installed in ride vehicles that could be operated by the passengers, which was not ideal. As a result, some parks began employing a professional driver in order to control the brake system. Others implemented brakes on certain areas of the track itself, which would also be operated manually. Both of these solutions came from a good place, but unfortunately when you leave anything up to human judgment, all it takes is one thing to go wrong for catastrophe to strike.
3 dead, 20 hurt, plunges 30 feet to attempt to escape. That's what I was saying though in the last scene, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, people died on here, but you know what? Let me just go around on this real quick just to see what it's talking about. But would y'all ride on the roller coaster, right? Because the rumors, just say, boom, rumors have it, 5 people died while riding this roller coaster. And you know how, and you know what they be doing too, especially that's what the haunted house people be saying, right? You know, we're gonna stand there for hours. That's great, but then they be in this face paint, whatever. Cool. Then they're gonna say, okay, guys, I don't know if it's real though, but they be sounding so convincing too, because they be like, oh yeah, yes, you know, it dates back to 1975. Then gray mist appears from the ground somehow, and then it start getting scary, and it's black. The lights are dark. Nothing. You just hear them speaking in this tone, like, oh yeah, you know, like it dates back to 1975 with his owner, a man named John Joe Swanson. You know, from Louisiana. He was an immigrant originally from France. He moved to Louisiana. He decided, okay, boom, he gonna make his legacy, and here we are. 50 years later, he passed away, unfortunately, happily in his sleep. But rumor has it, he was a crazed man. He was a crazed man. You know, nobody could stop him. You know, the district told him like, hey, your rights are hurting people. And he said, we don't care. We're gonna keep doing it. And, you know, he then went to jail, all of that. But that just fast forwards to right now. You know, out of the hundreds and thousands of people that rode this roller coaster, plenty made it alive, but unfortunately only 6 died. See, what would you do in that situation when they said that?
strike.
You can't do
Another
that.
thing that those designing amusement park rides didn't always account for was what kind of conditions the human body could actually withstand. An easy example of this is one of the first looping coasters in North America, Flip Flap Railway, which opened at Sea Lion Park on Coney Island in 1895. This ride featured a small circular loop, which could expose those riding to around 12 Gs of force, enough to cause some serious whiplash and make other people pass out entirely.
See, I can't
For a frame
ride
of
that, though.
reference, Shockwave at Six Flags Over Texas, the coaster that currently holds the record for the highest G-force, only sits at a 5.5. This is why modern coasters
said
always have
12.
loops that are a teardrop shape rather than a perfect circle, since it helps divert the amount of force placed on riders. Although stricter regulations for the safety of rides would not become commonplace until many decades later, some efforts were still made to improve the situation. Roller coaster designer John A. Miller made some serious contributions to ride safety through his inventions. Though he had many patents throughout his career, two of his inventions in particular would change the face of ride design forever. The first was the chain dog or safety ratchet, which was a device that kept ride cars from rolling backwards during a lift hill. The second was the upstop wheel, which is a third wheel that sits underneath the roller coaster track that keeps the cars from flying off. Miller's inventions would undoubtedly make roller coasters safer, but for some designers, this just gave them the license to make even more insane and terrifying rides. If you want an example, look no further than the Crystal Beach Cyclone. This infamous coaster featured a dizzying track
Shut,
layout.
look. The stress ball popped. What is this? Look. What is this? See, chat, that's where I said I can't play with the stress ball because it's going to do this. I don't even know what this is. This look like slime. What?
That was made up of almost entirely curved pieces and would whip riders through the course at speeds of up to 84 kilometers an hour. Despite its popularity, the Crystal Beach Cyclone was said to be very uncomfortable to ride, causing frequent whiplash injuries and even making some riders pass out. Reports say that a nurse was even hired to work at the station and treat passengers, though some sources debate on whether or not this was true or just a rumor made up by the press. What definitely
No,
wasn't
that
a
was
rumor,
rumors.
however, is the fact that the cyclone had a body count, causing the death of a 22-year-old man in 1938 when he allegedly stood up to take his jacket off during the ride and fell out of the train. But tragic accidents
Come on now, you know that don't even make no sense what you just did. That was the most brain dead activity you could even ever do. Oh, great. Oh, you know, guys, I'm hot. Guys, guys, I'm just so hot. You know what? Let me just take the jacket off real quick. While the ride is in motion. Come on.
like this were not enough to deter people from going on these rides. In fact, in some cases it actually made them more popular. People liked the idea of danger, and they liked the thrills that amusement parks brought them. Though, for some, the ultimate thrills weren't coming from the rides.
What this word is.
Though amusement parks are considered pretty family-friendly these days, the variety that could be found in the early 1900s offered a different sort of entertainment. They were widely known for being the kind of places where one could push the social boundaries of the time. This was especially true for the parks on Coney Island, where many of the attractions required men and women to physically touch each other, something which would have been scandalous to do in public during this era. One example of this was Steeplechase, a roller coaster and the namesake for
Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy because you know, people are weird. I'm not even gonna say men, just women and just people are weird. Like really. Same thing with that Shannon Sharp thing. Come on, man. What did Monique just tell you? Stop messing with these young girls and go ahead and find you a woman near your age. I mean, okay. I mean, nigga. Maybe they don't excite you, right? Maybe you do like the young ones, but Now you're getting sued for 50 million, and you just signed 100 million. Come on.
For Steeplechase Park, where pairs of guests would ride wooden horses along parallel tracks to simulate
Look how happy these people are. See, holding on these women waist like they creep.
horse racing.
Come on.
Riders on Steeplechase would often be paired up with a member of the
Why
opposite
don't the
sex,
man go in the
making it
front, though?
especially popular with young couples. Because the cars had no kind of restraint system and only provided handles to hold onto, riders had the opportunity to engage in some scandalous premarital shoulder touching, with the ride acting as the perfect excuse. Upon exiting Steeplechase, park-goers would then be funneled through the blowhole theater. Here, holes in the floor would shoot sudden gusts of air at those walking by, with the goal to lift the skirts of female riders, displaying their legs and underwear for public view.
Look at them.
While everyone was distracted by that, male riders would then be attacked by a pair of clowns, who would hit them with an electric cattle prod. Can you imagine? That's like if you got off Space Mountain.
Stop it. Nigga, I don't care. You weigh only 30, 40 pounds. I'm kicking you. Stop. You're not. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to say you're not doing anything. Right? But just know everything has a cause and effect. You just going to hit. You see? Like,
And Goofy suddenly came at you with a taser.
You're not.
After being thoroughly humiliated, couples would then have the opportunity to either join the spectators in watching the next unlucky souls
Look at
pass
this,
by, or enjoy the other
Happy.
attractions that the surrounding
Waiting for
pavilion
the
of
dress
fun had to offer.
pop up.
These also had an emphasis on getting people close together, involving rides where guests could climb, slide, or walk through various funhouse elements. But, unfortunately, attractions that sought to humiliate park guests were not the extent of the raunchy entertainment that these places had to offer. Early amusement parks were also full of racism, ableism, and animal cruelty. One common attraction that you might stumble across back then was a Lilliputian village, where little people would be employed to inhabit a fake city for the entertainment of park-goers. There were also a variety of racist carnival games, like the African Dodger, where white patrons could pay to throw baseballs at African-American men, with the goal of hitting their face to win a prize. And of course, animal cruelty was always expected back then, as we saw with the aforementioned horse diving show. These types of attractions were horrible, but unfortunately, they are still an important part of amusement park history, one that isn't usually talked about. Though changes would be made over the years, the process of removing the more problematic elements from amusement parks, as well as improving ride safety, would be slow and gradual. It wasn't until the 1970s that stricter laws would be created to regulate entertainment venues in North America, but by then, the golden age of amusement parks was already over. The Great Depression would cause struggles all around the world, but it hit the entertainment sector especially hard. With people having less disposable income, the amusement industry would struggle to stay afloat, resulting in not only less of a demand for existing thrill rides, but also a lack of interest in the invention of new ones. Many of the smaller parks that flourished during the Golden Age would end up closing down, some leaving hardly a trace that they even existed at all. This industry slump would not pick up again until the early 1970s, with the rise of the steel roller coaster. But by this point, amusement parks had already become very different from when they began. Though in many ways this change was for the better, I would argue that something was lost along the way. Sure, the parks of the Golden Age had a lot of problems, but they were still a fascinating glimpse into technological advancement and social culture during the early 20th century. And while yes, I would definitely prefer rides that are safety tested than ones that aren't, this era of innovation had a certain charm to it. But if you're still itching to get a taste of that old-timey amusement park experience, there are still a few of these original attractions around, now upgraded not to be deadly. Leap the Dips at Lakemont Park in Pennsylvania is currently the oldest standing roller coaster still in operation. Built in 1902, it was refurbished in 1997 and still entertains the public to this day. If you're ever in Australia, you can also check out the Scenic Railway at Melbourne's Luna Park, which is the second oldest coaster and the oldest continuously operating one. Unfortunately, I don't have a super old coaster to recommend from Canada, but if you want a ride that somewhat recaptures the weird era of early attraction design, then there's always Sledgehammer at Canada's Wonderland, provided you can find a time when it's actually operating. Though I'm a big Sledgehammer fan, it's definitely on my bucket list to visit one of these older roller coasters one day. And if time travel is ever invented, then a trip to 1920s Coney Island is also up there. Hey everyone.
Very good video, y'all. I told you, battling with the sniffles right now. And my nose burns. I look clean. I look clean.